and gentlemen, welcome to the World Championship Series Europe, round of 16 for the Premier League, our third and final season, but only of 2013. Don't get too upset just yet. Plenty more action for StarCraft 2 on the way. Of course, yesterday, fantastic Group B yesterday. Let's just recap on the bracket and show you who went through. As you can see on your screen, Vortex and MC, the favourite two in many ways to go through, but perhaps not the way that we expected them to go through. Thorzane putting up an extremely tough fight for the Korean Protoss, but in the end, it is MC and Vortex that go through to the quarterfinals to join Targa and Stardust from day one. Who's it going to be on day three? Let's show you the groups so far and the groups still to come. As we said, Group B and Group A already played. Group C tonight, ForGG, Genius, Nurtio and ShoWTimE. Very interesting players. We'll catch up with Grubby in just a moment on those. And then Group D tomorrow, featuring a Triple Crown winner, MMA, Titan, the top Russian, Starbuck, the new boy on the block, as it were, from Slovenia, and not only that, the European champion from Season 2, back to try and defend his title, the only man capable of doing so. MVP, of course, not here in the round of 16, having been removed. Grubby is with us. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Very good evening. I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah, so interesting little group we've got here. It's sort of filled with new blood, some blood that's been around for a little bit, and some old blood. It's a nice mixed group.
Yeah, I just met ShoWTimE for the first time. He was fairly shaking with nervous energy. And then you've got ForGG, looks kind of cool. Genius, of course, is one of the most experienced StarCraft 2 players, been around for a long time. And then we've got Nurtio as well. Yeah,
okay, let's take a look at the four players in your group for Group C. As you can see, their rankings have quite an extraordinary gap between them. 17th currently for ForGG. He was right in 16th before yesterday, so he's right on the bubble of making it to BlizzCon. Remember, only the top 16 WCS points winners go to BlizzCon for the finals at the end of the year. Unfortunately for Genius and ShoWTimE, a long way off. I mean, they would have to have a terrific run through if they were going to get to the BlizzCon finals. But Nurtio, again, an outsider for it, but not too far away. Again, would have to have a very deep run through the tournament. Overall, we won't talk about the first matchup just yet, but overall, what's your general feeling about this group, Grubby?
Well, as I mentioned before yesterday, I think this is the hardest group here of this round of 16. I think every player here is capable of taking it. ShoWTimE, he beat MVP twice, no small feat. Nurtio, when he feels like it, he certainly brings a very high-level game, and we could be looking to him as perhaps the replacement of Stefano, as the top dog Zerg in Europe. And we've got Genius, who can look like he's kind of being phased out of the competitive, very, very top scene. And then he goes and takes like 3-4 consecutive wins in GSTL for his team, with a big smile on his face as he does it. And finally, of course, ForGG, who looks slated to, with just a bit of extra points, to be a part of BlizzCon. And it would be a huge disappointment and upset if he didn't make it through this group. Very strong group. Yeah, indeed. Let's take a look at the bracket for this evening and show you how the matches are going to pan out. We'll start off with ForGG versus ShoWTimE, and then we'll move on to Genius versus Nurtio. So our first game we'll talk about in a minute or so. ForGG, ShoWTimE. Genius, Nurtio, let's just have a quick word for those two players. You've got a player from Korea who has only played, this is only his third tournament of the year. His second one was the Challenger League in Season 2, so he hasn't got a huge amount of experience in terms of this year, but we know, I mean, he was the very first BlizzCon winner in StarCraft 2, what, I don't know, 70 years ago or something. It was quite a long while ago. And yet, he hasn't been around this year. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage for the players that play against him? Well, I think if he brings a good level of play here, it's definitely going to be an advantage, especially for a Protoss player who it's usually the responsibility of the Protoss player to bring something really surprising and aggressive and something new really to the table against a Zerg player. So someone who you can't study, that's going to be a scary opponent. And the world of possibilities that Nurtio has to keep into account might seem a little bit daunting.
Okay, well, thank you, Chairman of Protoss, representing the Ps here, of course, at round of 16. Don't forget, you can interact with us via the usual social media channels, facebook.com/StarCraft, and also over on Twitter @StarCraft. Make sure you're following them for all the latest updates, news, and results. And also include the hashtag #WCS all evening. And who knows, your tweet might be featured during the show. Your 15 seconds of fame will be assured. Time to get into our first game and talk about our first game. it's an interesting one. ForGG versus ShoWTimE, okay? Now, let's just talk about the way they've got through first. As you can see, ForGG fairly straightforward through a difficult group, admittedly. Todd and Naniwa both beaten by him. ShoWTimE, on the other hand, as we said earlier on, not only lost to Vortex, who is 8-0 right now in WCS Europe, which is scary stats by any stretch of the imagination, but ShoWTimE, the German 19-year-old, has beaten MVP not just once, but twice to get through to the round of 16. So an impressive run from him. But the two are so different. I mean, you've got ForGG with years and years of experience, not just in StarCraft 2, but in Brood War as well. He's played in everything I can think of, never quite made it to the top. He's had a runners-up, he's had a couple of thirds, a couple of fourths, always seems to be there or thereabouts in the round of 8 in almost every tournament we go to, but has never actually won a big tournament. He's up against a guy who has limited experience, relatively new to the scene. He's 19 years old. He's in his home country playing in the WCS round of 16 and has less than $2,000 to his name in previous prize money before he got here. So the disparity between the two would suggest this is a clean sweep for ForGG, wouldn't it?
You would think so, but yeah, there's a lot to be said about both players, which makes this match so interesting and which makes me happy to see this one with full concentration as the first game of the day. For ShoWTimE, as you mentioned, there's a lot of forces at work here. We've got the home ground advantage, which usually creates for extra strength, extra motivation, extra enthusiasm. But on the other hand, he's quite nervous, and can he turn that nervous energy into a positive force, or is it going to hamstring him? And according to a lot of people who have spoken about ShoWTimE, he's been a good player, and when I say good, I mean very good player for a long time in the Europe scene, but mostly so on ladder. So is he a standard player who's very strong on ladder and will just show too much the same strategies in tournaments and therefore people can counter him? Because he hasn't been able to translate these results on ladder yet to actual tournaments. Can he do that now? I'm not sure.
Well, we are about to find out because game one is almost ready, or at least we're ready for the map vetoes. So it's time to go over to our commentary team for our first match of the evening in Group C. It's the 19-year-old German from ESC Gaming going head-to-head with Millennium's finest, ForGG from Korea. Lads, take it away. It's Apollo and Kalaris.
Thanks very much, guys. Welcome to the caster's desk for our first best of 3 in day number 3 here in the round of 16 for the World Championship Series Europe Premier League. That was a mouthful if I've ever said one. And we have ShoWTimE versus ForGG. Going to be a good match.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. You know, Grubby and Red Eye went through the group really well in detail. ShoWTimE coming into today, beat MVP 2 times in a row. 2 wins, 1 loss in each series. Now, the level of difficulty that he's going to experience at the World Championship Series just rose by a ton.
Oh, yeah.
Because right now, ForGG is, for me, one of the favorites to win the entire tournament. ShoWTimE will enter this series probably knowing that this is going to be the most important game of the entire group for him. Very simply because if he was to lose this game, he would have to go up against Nurture, who's a very deadly opponent, or Genius in a Protoss versus Protoss against an unpredictable Korean because nobody knows how he plays. That is a scary thought to think about. This is important, and we'll see how well he can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of dynamics going into this group. And ForGG, I have to kind of stick with what you were just saying. You know, ForGG is looking extremely, extremely strong in this season. And
well, let me tell you. Oh, go. Sorry.
That's fine. That's
fine.
No. Well, in this, the thing is, in this matchup, no, Apollo. He doesn't play a standard style of Terran versus Protoss.
I was about to add on. I'm like, this guy can do more than just SCV pull.
Oh yeah.
That's like what I wanted to squeeze in there because he can do anything. And ForGG, timing-oriented player, will look for opportunities to kill you. But ShoWTimE did display that if we do see the recent style of Terran versus Protoss, which are the SCV pulls, then he can deal with it. Against MVP, his goal, survive 50 minutes, because if it goes past 50 minutes, I'm going to kill you because latency will hurt you a lot.
Yep.
And he did it twice in a row. But now we're playing against ForGG, who will surpass the 50-minute mark, will play one of the better games that we've seen. And to be honest, I think this really can be a good series. But a big question mark surrounds the young 19-year-old German player here. How are his nerves?
How are they? That's true. This is the biggest stage he's been on ever in his StarCraft career. And now going up against a player like ForGG, a player that has taken fantastic results all over the place. A lot of 2 big Premier second places. He's taken a 3rd place, a 3rd and 4th place, but never actually clinched that 1st place that he's really wanted in a big tournament. But he's out for it this season. He is definitely out for it. And ShoWTimE has to be so careful about going up against this man.
All right, let me just describe to everybody that may not know who ForGG is. Back in 2008, when he won his StarCraft Brood War Championship, he beat Flash and Jaedong in the finals 3-0 to win it. This guy has it inside to be one of the best players in StarCraft 2. Absolutely, it's there. But the thing is, we really need to see it. As mentioned, he's only got, so far, the highest finish 2nd place. He hasn't won a StarCraft 2 tournament yet. It's very important, obviously, for him to be able to get that win.
Now, it's important to note here, looking at ShoWTimE statistics, the 100% that we see there for Terran is based purely on, his WCS games alone, and he hasn't played that many. That 100% represents the 2 wins against MVP, and that is it. So don't be fooled by, he is a god of TVP. He's pretty good at it. But 100% is a little bit misrepresentative of that. So that is important to note here, going up against a player like ForGG, who can bring a lot to the table.
All right, here he is. Feels most comfortable in those straight-up macro games, Kalaris.
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to play that today? Is he going to be able to play that today against this guy? Against this guy right there, who has a decent win record against Protoss, a good win rate against Terran, but we've all seen it. We've all seen him lose to players like TLO, 36% in the World Championship Series system. That's DreamHack, Tier 1, Tier 2 tournaments, all these Tier 1 and Tier 2s. The World Championship Series itself, not a very high win rate. But in recent times, we have seen him improve on that. So I'm sure that stat will rise up. But we mentioned it earlier on. He can play any style, can play defensive, can play aggressive, can play timing-oriented, can go late, can go early, whatever it takes to win. And I think he's really going to display that in this series.
Yeah, I think so too. The one thing that's really stand out for me as a player like ForGG, or I say like ForGG, but it's actually only ForGG, is the way in which he kind of doesn't really go for ghosts that quickly in this matchup. But coming to our first map here, Derelict Watcher, we've seen it quite a lot actually in the past couple of groups. In Season 1 and 2, it was hardly ever there. But now, a lot of people are finding a bit more comfort on it.
Yeah, the more you play it, the more you get used to the maps, right? Initially, this map was like, yeah, I'm never going to be able to take a 3rd base, which is why it was heavily vetoed during Season 1 and Season 2. But if I remember correctly, this was a map that was definitely played once, maybe even twice against MVP that we saw ShoWTimE win on.
Yes.
So obviously there's going to be some comfortable feelings when going up against another Terran play here. But he's already beaten 1 Korean Terran legend. Can he beat another here today? He's the only German representative, and oh boy, does he have some shoes to fill.
Oh, yeah.
Season 1, we had Tilo represent Germany and Europe at the Season 1 finals. In Season 2, Hazuob's got top 8 in the Premier League. Didn't quite do as good as TLO, but did good enough to represent and kind of make his country proud. But now we have ShoWTimE playing for Germany as the only player, and he is in a very difficult group. Grubby says it's the hardest group out of all 4. Can he do it?
It's going to be a tall order, it really is. But his PVT shone through in the round of 32. Will it here in the round of 16? As we get into game number 1 between these 2 combatants, looking to move on to the round of 8. As we have spawning up to the top right-hand corner are red Protoss, representing ESC Icy Box as well as Germany. Give it up for ShoWTimE. And down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have our blue Terran, representing Millennium as well as Korea. Give it up for ForGG. All right, well, Derelict Watcher here for our first PVT of the day. And as I said before, you know, ForGG can bring out some interesting play styles. You know, not having a lot of ghosts in his composition, or focusing a little bit more on Hellback incorporation later on. It's something that can catch a lot of Protoss a little bit off guard and really hurt them.
Oh, you stole my thunder, you did. You stole my thunder. But let me join with you, and I'll give the lightning, because
Give it.
ForGG does play a very unique style, which I was going to go over, is that he says, you know what, screw ghosts. Because it is difficult to make sure you do land the right snipes, to do land the right EMPs, not to get feedbacked and so on, and then be able to control the main army, to be able to spread your units, to be able to make sure the Vikings are targeted down each single Colossus per time. It can become very difficult for Terran players. So ForGG says, well, let me just remove one of those elements in some of my games here. Let me remove ghosts, and let me add in a heavier Marauder count, and add in more Hellbats, which basically says, I don't need an EMP, I don't need to control them, but as long as he has a higher amount of units and they are spread nicely and dodges storms, that's how he likes to play this matchup.
Job's a good one. Job's a good one. And, you know, Derelict Watcher is a great map for that. There's so much room for ForGG to start going through with that, and can easily get himself in a good position. And he normally hits at a particular time where, you know, if your opponent's gone for Colossi initially, and then he hits when Storm is just about to finish. Maybe you have like 2 or 3 High Templars out, but he's willing to start dodging the Storms. And that's something that makes ForGG so strong, especially in this offline particular portion of the tournament.
That's right, that's what really does make him a standout different Terran. ShoWTimE just going for the Zealot cancel. 1 gas, expansion is down, and so far he has seen that this is a 1 Barracks command center. He's going to decide to throw down the 2nd gas. How is ShoWTimE going to approach this series against ForGG? He knows he's a very solid player. They've obviously played against each other on the ladder before, so I'm interested to see, does he feel inside him? Does he have the confidence to go toe-to-toe, to cut out the nonsense, to throw down the robotics facility, to start getting his tech down, to get the observers out, to throw down the force to start to upgrade earlier on? Because ForGG is saying, you know, buddy, so far you've seemed pretty normal, and are you going to do something crazy against me? I don't think so. And a 3rd command center has been slapped down here by ForGG. Obviously this delays his barracks adds-on, it delays his refineries, it delays then his stim, his factory, his engineering, everything is delayed.
Yeah.
But in return, he's going to have a much higher SCV count and more mules out. So eventually, he'll get to where he should be at a later time and then surpass it at a much faster rate. But in that time, he is open to attacks. He is open to aggression. He could die to it. But as we see, ShoWTimE just robo. He's like, hands up. Right, robo. You go 1 gate, you go 1 barracks expo. I'll go 1 gate expo, throw my robo down. But what does this see?
What does it see? We'll have to find out. The Marines are already positioned to actually intercept it, but I have to ask, in the round of 32, we saw ShoWTimE using a lot of double forge plays. There's the one going down right now, but if he were to go for a double forge play, well, this is moving in.
You see the late add-on to the barracks, and he's going to go, not quite to see it, but just seeing the late add-on of the barracks should be enough for a good player like ShoWTimE to be able to say, all right, they are actually quite a bit later in this game. You've probably got a 3rd command center down. It's very weird for ForGG to throw down like double gases and then be late on his barracks here. He hasn't seen it 100%. So technically, there is the chance that he doesn't realize. But with Chronoboost going into the Forge here, what we could end up seeing is some form of timing come out from ShoWTimE. He's Chronoboost in the Forge, he's added on his extra 2 gases on the natural, and Twilight Council down. Oh, a scan. Oh my god. What a beautiful scan there by ForGG.
Absolutely perfect timing.
Sees the gas has been added on, sees the Twilight Council really early on here, and can just imagine that if he's going to get the Twilight so early, then he's probably Chronoboosting into the Forge. So ForGG probably already knows exactly what's going on here. But I think ShoWTimE may be looking, or was looking, should I say, for some form of 2-base timing.
Well, yeah, the Twilight Council is a little bit earlier than you would normally get it to go onto a second upgrade, right? So that's a little bit of a difference here that we're seeing from ShoWTimE to normal standard Protoss play. He's throwing down those extra gateways, just keeping him going, and a Warp Prism comes out a little bit earlier here for ShoWTimE than normal.
Yeah, I mean, he's only got 3 Stalkers out at the moment, so I'm not too sure what the Warp Prism can do for now. Maybe it can warp in a couple of units to the main base or try to do some harassment, but the Templar Archives has been thrown down very, very early on. So the Observer confirms everything. Now, he knows the 3rd command center's there, and I still have the feeling inside that he's going to attack.
Is he going to go for some, like, maybe try and drop with Zealots initially, but then follow it up with, like, Storm drops? Because it's kind of looking down that avenue, but at the same time, doing too much fancy stuff could just mean ForGG just hits you with a sledgehammer.
Well, he's actually going to just, by the looks of it, use the Warp Prism to harass, and he is going to throw down the expansion, so he's not going to try something too crazy to go for this attack. Maybe could be because of how 4G scouted the early Twilight Council, but upon seeing the early Twilight Council here, I wouldn't be surprised if 4GG was expecting the Templar Archives to follow this down. Is getting the turret just in case of random DTs that were to appear in this game.
Whoa, and look at how many barracks instantly go down. 4 in total extra. So his macro,
of production, man.
It's absolutely going to be flying, you're right. And then with that, you know, this Sword Prism hit over there. He has a Zealot in there. I think he waits for High Templars and eventually goes for Storm. I mean, he can go with the Zealots initially because the Templar Archives haven't been spotted yet.
I mean, one of the most important things, I think, for ShoWTimE is to wait till 4GG starts to move out. I don't think you want to go in too early because 4GG is never going to be too far away, which is probably why the Observer's down there, just kind of looking around, seeing the third go over. But he has taken a decently timed third of his own. I mean, it's a decently timed Nexus here. And he does have that +2 armor, but he hasn't got the second Forge, which was the style he focused very heavily on against MVP.
Exactly, yeah.
He's still chrono boosting into that Forge, trying to rush out that upgrade.
Well, he's going to have Charge out very soon as well, as long as that keeps going. And this drop, he has 3 Zealots in there so far. And Storm's finished. So if he got a High Templar over there as well, that could be in the mix. But he's being so patient with the Sword Prism. As you said, waiting for the move out, waiting for the perfect time to jump in. And that's some good patience there by ShoWTimE.
4GG spots the earlier third than normal. At the same time, the Warp Prism's gone into the main base of 4GG here, as I can see on the minimap, and it is going to get into the mineral line for now. 4GG's not quite close. He hasn't really moved out with his army, but he's still been able to get a couple of SCV kills. He can use pick out and get out of here as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a counter drop. And ShoWTimE's... Oh, good reactions. I was about to say he may be occupied with a drop inside 4GG's base, but he spots it and he does deal with it.
He does. That Widowmine's going to stay there for a while because there's no observer back there. There's 3 in the middle of the map, but not doing too much else. So that's a bit annoying for him. He will have to force that away. And another drop, but there's plenty of units there to try and deal with it initially.
Yeah, it looks like there's a High Templar on the natural that picked off the Minivac, and then he's pushed this one back as well. His +2 armor's about to complete. What are 4GG's upgrades? Actually not in the game at this point, but I think they're quite bad.
They are
+1 attack. No +1 armor. No second engineering bay.
But here come the Hellbats. And this
What's the SCV count? 55?
Yeah.
And he's not building SCVs?
Nope.
I think we very well could see an SCV pull here come out from 4GG very, very soon.
Even with Hellbats, that's a scary thing to deal with. This is a very, very formidable composition. 2 High Templar are here for ShoWTimE, so he's going to try and eventually go for that, but he has to be careful about being back at home. He's supply blocked right now. He needs as many units as possible to deal with this.
He really needs to be able to deal with this drop, and then units on his third base. He definitely sees it because there's an observer that spots the army down to the south here, but there's a drop in the main base. That's going to be difficult. The army's here ready to intercept. Time Warp and Storms. Oh, beautiful! Beautiful defense there by ShoWTimE. But in the main base, at the moment, he's not defending in there.
Nice pushback, but taking quite a bit of damage, losing a little bit of that infrastructure. The Zealots charging forwards. They're going to be sacrificed. But meanwhile, in the main base still, the Zealots have been cleaned up. 4GG has found weakness in ShoWTimE pretty early here and is killing off gateway after unit.
I'm not too sure if you saw the drops here, man, because this is not a good defense inside the main base. As good as the defense was on the third with the Time Warp and Storm, this is obviously not going too well. Look at the supply difference. 160 for 4GG to 93. The army supply is 31.
And he's killing off all the gateways, so he's not going to be able to warp in anything else.
4GG's healing up down here with the army that was escaped. All the gateways are getting turned off. He can't even warp any more units.
Oh, no.
ShoWTimE may be just as good as dead with this.
Oh, this is crumbling away from ShoWTimE here very, very rapidly. Archon's going to die. There you go. GG for game number 1. 4GG absolutely masters it.
Yeah, ShoWTimE deals with one, but not the other there. And 4GG just walks away with that.
That was a tough one. That was a tough one. I don't think the High Templars, of course, you know, we saw very early on that was going to be some attempt at, you know, storm drops. But if you can't even get to that point without dying before, there's no point setting up that. You've got to be mindful of your mid game for far longer than ShoWTimE was there.
Yeah, I think maybe that maybe his approach wasn't the best with the way that he played this out. Remember, there's always not the 100% confirmation on that third command center. But just, I think that maybe a more greedy approach to begin with would have been better. For example, double forge, an earlier third base, just something a bit cleaner, rather than trying to go straight up to the Twilight Council, because I'm still not sure even if he had a two-base attack planned in that.
Yeah.
It definitely could have come to that. And then I think the scam really threw him off a little bit, and then he kind of changed pathways a little bit, and then did end up taking that third base. But whatever the cause, ForGG, with execution, with just solid play, no real mistakes from him, comes in with a nicely double setup attack, and as we can see, his opponent wasn't quite able to deal with it.
And aside from those 3 zealots that made their way into the main, ForGG was just playing his own game, complete plain sailing throughout that entire game. So likewise, if ShoWTimE isn't going to put on too much aggression back at home, you would expect to have, you know, not only the High Templars there, but even the transition onto Colossi going for just a little bit, whilst at least having some army to actually deal with those assaults. And it was difficult for the guy. So in game number 2, what do you expect any deviations coming out of ShoWTimE here?
I think he's going to play reactionary because he's not too sure what ForGG is going to bring to the table. So I'm probably expecting something along the same lines here.
Yeah.
Remember, his comfort area is to play the later game. He does like to focus on a defensive opening and mid-game and then look for a killing move in the later stages. But the biggest question now is, as an unexperienced player, and I've been there myself, when you're playing your first big tournament like this and you lose map number 1, it's very difficult to keep away the emotions from taking control of you.
Yeah.
It's actually very, very difficult because all of a sudden you're like, oh God, I've lost map number 1. When you go into map number 1, I think there are nerves there. If you win it, then it's relieved. But if you lose it, it gets worse, a lot worse.
And we'll have to see how he's going to carry this out into game number 2. Akelon Wastes is our map. Wait a minute, there's a new message, and it's about you. I didn't quite see that just there on the floor, but I'll see it next time we go to that camera.
It said me, did it?
It's got your name in it. Well, I didn't even realize. Okay, game number 2 on the way, as we have spawning up to the top left-hand corner as our red Protoss, representing ESC Icybox, as well as Germany. Give it up for ShoWTimE. And down to the bottom right, our blue Terran, representing Millennium as well as Korea. Currently 1 game up. Give it up for ForGG.
What a wonderful Season 1 that ForGG had.
Oh, yeah.
What a wonderful, I mean, top 4 is really respectable. Clearly would have wanted a higher finish than that in the Premier League here. But his performances at the Season 1 finals, oh boy. I was casting those games. At that time, he wasn't having the best Terran versus Protoss, and he played against Hero 2-0. And the Korean casters were going crazy. They were screaming his real name.
Oh, wow.
The audience, ForGG, by the way, at the Season 1 finals, had one of the largest fan bases in Korea of female fans.
He's a handsome chap.
He's also he's a Star League winner, man.
He is. That's
and
pretty
he
good.
had a lot of Korean fans cheering for him. They were all screaming his name. Casters were loving it too, especially when he then went on and beat SOS 2-1 as well.
Yeah, jeez.
And then he had a winner's interview after he advanced in first place in his group. And then the bracket got drawn and he was playing against MVP. He says, TVT, yeah, come on, bring it on, I'm going to win. Because his bracket was full of Terrans. Because then when MVP won, he played Innovation. And ForGG really thought that was going to be his tournament. But unfortunately, he got stung by the king.
MVP, don't bet against him. 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose.
Look at the building placements here of ShoWTimE. Thrown to the left-hand side here.
It's exactly what he did against MVP as well.
Yeah,
just to catch Reapers and stuff.
I mean, to catch Reapers is definitely one of the reasons. Another big reason is for drops when they come in on the right-hand side. He doesn't lose invaluable structures like that because they're on the other side. It's harder for ForGG to get towards them.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. And as we saw in game number 1, that kind of didn't go so well for him. He lost a lot of his buildings. So this is very, very vital here into game number 2. But ForGG is currently on the cusp of going to BlizzCon. Now, he needs to win this group. He was in a very similar situation to MC, actually. He needs to win this group, but he has the cushion of Intel Extreme Masters in New York that he's qualified for. So, but the seasons give you so many points that it's still so important for him to actually move through this group.
Yeah, I mean, I think I brought it up yesterday, is that a 3rd place finish out of 4 players in your group at season finals, even though you're out in 3rd place in your group of 4, you get 750 points. It's the same as a victory at a tier 1 tournament. It's
huge.
Massive. So obviously any player that wants to go to BlizzCon is going to try to get to the season finals.
Oh, yeah.
But look at this in this game again. ForGG's decided to go 1 barracks command center and then the 3rd. ShoWTimE now, and I really like this play from ForGG. It's indirectly, it's so much pressure thrown down to ShoWTimE. Because ShoWTimE is basically saying, you know what, he really did take an upper hand in game 1, didn't he? And then comes into map number 2, he can't do the same. He's not going to do the same because a good Protoss player would punish that. But then in this regard, ShoWTimE hasn't seen it, therefore ForGG is going to get away with it initially. But the question comes down really to ShoWTimE, is the Mothership Core will probably spot it. Look at the location of the 3rd command center.
Yeah.
It may even be baiting out a scout. ForGG could have put it on the right-hand side. And then obviously it's going to take longer to mine and lift over, but that's going to get spotted really easy. The big question for the entire of this game I'm going to ask now is when ShoWTimE sees it, what's his reaction?
Now, what does he do? I would like to see a double forge play out of him. Go back to, he sees it now, goes back, if he goes back to the style he was playing against MVP, I think that's going to have far more success than game 1 had against ForGG. So, how about you? What do you think he might be thinking here?
If he likes to play macro, then he could theoretically take a 3rd Nexus. He could go double forge, but he should be playing greedy.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's the double forge. So I really feel in that previous game on Derelict Watcher, I'm not too sure if he did read into the build properly. I mean, it's very difficult to know. His play wasn't the cleanest, it wasn't the smoothest. But ForGG scans, right? Sees double gas. That's exactly the kind of same scan that he had last time. It's the same gases as last time. So for him, he's not exactly sure what this means. Because it looks like it's some form of tech. Is it a 2-base Colossus all in? Is it the fast Twilight Council again? Or is it an economy-focused double upgrade play? ForGG simply doesn't know.
And I think to that, I think ForGG here is a little bit more diligent about his scouting, because if he sees that and says, well, you know, it might be a tech, it might be an all-in, I want to know as quickly as that's going to be coming along. And if he does eventually get that scout, if he sees those double forge plays, he's going to know, all right, some kind of, you know, longer late game focus, great. Then he'll be able to keep going with himself. He has 1 engineering bay down so far, might throw the 2nd one down if he spots what his opponent's up to. So all these things really do factor in.
Absolutely. There's a lot of information that's missing from ForGG's game at this moment. So we'll see when he scans, if he does again, how does he move for the rest of the game? Does he just say, all right, I don't really care what you're going to do, I'm going to build up and get to my starport and so on. But from this position, it's all off a single gateway until just now, I think, where there's a couple more added on too. So he's only on 3 gateways, and a 3rd Nexus is about to come down. This is the pinnacle of greed. This is perfect. The only thing that he's got to be careful of now is how and when does ForGG look to gather more information. We should see the Twilight Council come down even before more gateways. It's very greedy. It's going to set him up very beautiful for the long game.
Yes.
But he is obviously open to multiple attacks if ForGG gets very aggressive at the starport completes.
And there's that Twilight Council. He needs this at this particular time, maybe even a smidge earlier, just to have it line up nicely with those 2-2 upgrades that are going to be coming down. This Marine sees nothing.
Exactly. So ForGG may scan after this because he's like, all right, well, this guy's clearly hiding his Sentry count, his Colossus count maybe.
Yeah.
So at this point, ForGG is still in the dark, has no idea what's going on. Has added on 4 more barracks, and that's a lot of barracks. That's 8 barracks now.
Same as last game.
That's a lot of barracks. He does not have the best of upgrades. He's only halfway complete with +1 attack, where ShoWTimE is about to start 2-2. So very easily, as we look at this game, ShoWTimE is going to have a massive 2-2 timing. He's going to have a massive 3-3 timing, as long as he starts his 2-2 soon, actually. He decided to get Blink, because he is starting to feel a little bit threatened, because ForGG soon is going to be ready. Well, the Medivac's are on the way, right? So
yeah,
at this point, he wanted to get Blink first over 2-2, but it still doesn't matter. He's still got a massive upgrade advantage.
Yeah, you absolutely have to be worried at this point. Knowing that you're spread across 3 bases, you don't have many units, you need to utilize those units as best as you can do. That's why Blink comes out now, to try and deter these drops. And likewise, the Colossi aren't going to do too badly either, because Thermal Lance is about to finish up, and that makes clearing up drops a little bit easier as well.
Well, here's this drop with 2 mines in it. Currently, ShoWTimE's not quite in position, and the Medivac does drop the mine off. Good pull-ish of probes, only 1 dies.
No, not too bad.
There's another one going to go up there, though.
And his observers are all out in the middle of the field. One of them's coming back to the natural now. This Widow Mine does burrow and connects with nothing. No. Oh,
7. All right, so 1 on the natural, 7 in the main, 8 in total, and maybe 1 more on the 3rd. Yeah, so 9. Not bad. And on top of that, ForGG also scouted everything. The big problem now with losing 9 probes for ShoWTimE is how the hell, upon losing 9 probes, his Chrono Boost goes into the Nexus, does he deal with a follow-up attack? Well, if he can, then congrats, I'll buy you a beer later. If you can't, you may be in trouble.
It's like not only that was that great harassment and great control of that Widowmine at the end using the stop to make sure it doesn't fire off too early, but also that gained him massive amounts of scouting information. He saw everything of his opponent's setup, and now, you know, with this supply advantage he has, 86 army supply to 51, this could really, really hurt.
He really slowed down ShoWTimE a lot. He has recovered, though. He does still have 67 probes, but there was that good couple of seconds in between the Widowmine hits to now of recovery time for his economy.
Yeah.
But he is about to approach 2-2. MVP, I wish it was. ForGG has only +1 attack. He doesn't have a second engineering bay look. He's really going to focus on Hellbats soon, because Hellbats will be tanking for him, so he doesn't necessarily need armor on his bio unit if he has a lot of units defending them at the front. That's his army composition, that's his upgrade pathway. If we see ShoWTimE start 3-3 soon, he's got a lot of gas in the bank, and just waits until 3-3 and hits a 3-3 play, then I think that's his best chance of winning.
Oh, but look how fast ForGG maxes out with those A barracks behind this, as well as those factions. Whoa, have to be careful. Nice snipe out of that first Viking, yeah, you're right. But one thing that's going for ShoWTimE is that he's not that zealot heavy. He's only got 9 in his army, which would disintegrate to the Hellbats, but he still needs some to tank, right?
He's got to be careful here. He needs good force fields. The Colossus are crucial. Force fields are just as crucial here, because he needs to keep the floodgates closed.
Yeah.
There they are.
Nice.
He's going to pick up the Vikings. He doesn't have a large army. He's got great upgrades, but as long as the Colossus stay alive and deal the damage necessary, maybe, you know, ShoWTimE can advance in this game. 4 Colossus, but that's a lot of ground units by ForGG, and he's hungry. He's stimming through. He's broken into the third, and now ShoWTimE must fight without the force field advantage.
And ForGG has a really nice position here as well. 2 force fields go down, but I don't know if it's going to be enough here.
Gotta get rid of the Vikings.
Oh, the concave is very good for ForGG as well, as he kills off a lot of the gateway force, and now that leaves all these Colossi completely vulnerable. Stims forward, is going to kill off quite a few of them in the end with that time warp, trying to slow all this down, but 2 Colossi have already fallen. He'll clean this up.
Well, he's doing okay. He's going to pick off the last Viking. He does survive for now, so not bad by ShoWTimE, but he does lose his 3rd Nexus, right?
That's
a lot of kills on the Colossus, and he just about survived. Remember, the upgrades are still bad for ForGG, but the one thing ForGG has way over ShoWTimE now is economy. The income is going to drop down for ShoWTimE. Losing a 3rd Nexus like that is very, very painful. Obviously, if he rebuilds it and gets to 3-3, albeit, but +2 attacks finish now. +1 armor's about to complete for ForGG. It was a good attack by ForGG, and he dealt a lot of damage. And to be honest, I wouldn't say that was a bad attack. The follow-up is that they're going to be almost as hard, right?
There just wasn't that many Vikings with that fight. Pure and simple, there wasn't that many Vikings to deal with 5 Colossi. So now, you know, he's only sitting at around 4. He's adding on a few more, admittedly. But ShoWTimE has to somehow perform wizardry in this next engagement once his opponent's maxed out, and ShoWTimE's probably at, what, like 150 supply or something? Yeah. But at the same time, could be a little bit difficult.
Well, he's about to have Storm now as well, so that will help out with some juicy, thick, lovely, jubbly storms, and that's what he's really going to have to focus on now, because his 3rd Nexus is about to complete. So is 3-3. If he keeps on getting the Chrono Boost in there, +3 armor's almost done. It's going to help his Zealots out a lot. But as you can see by the supply differences, losing that 3rd Nexus has really hurt him in this game, unfortunately. But still, with a good fight, maybe there's a chance he can still do this. Obviously, ForGG is in prime position with a 4th command center on the way, as well as his upgrades really catching up. But here comes the second fight. Can ShoWTimE do it?
And he needs to try and snipe out a Viking. Does get one there for the cost of one of the bravest Zealots I've ever seen in this game previously. But aside from that, ShoWTimE's going to try and hold the ramps, try and hold the chokes. If he had a pylon over at that right-hand side to warp in some Zealots behind this, but he has to commit everything to the front, because ForGG has another really strong army once again, but he only has 7 Vikings at the front.
Yeah, the Stalkers and the Stalkers need to hit this well. He blinks forward, actually misses, and loses 2 Stalkers there. Storms are going to be really good in that filtered area, but he's got to keep the Colossus away from the Vikings.
Absolutely has to. Nice Storm will land on a lot of that bio at the front. Stalker's trying to zone out the Vikings again. He has a lot of Storms.
3-3 is done now. So ShoWTimE's at 175 supply. He's got pylons on the other side of the map, but obviously he's very focused on not dying at this point.
Yeah.
But if the 3 more Zealots get warped in, as well as the Mothership Core does get picked off before and then restarted now. But from this position, if he can hit 3-3 hard, with a really good fight, this is probably his best chance in the game. Because obviously the later it goes on, ForGG still has a good economy, but we do see now ShoWTimE moving across. He's throwing down his full Nexus, and ForGG is weak at this moment. This is a very strong army. They've got great upgrades. They've got Storm. There's 4 Colossus.
He doesn't have Ghosts either. He doesn't have Ghosts. That's pretty annoying against how many High Templars we have out right now. That have 7, but at the same time, they are with the army. He is going to land a Storm. Not too bad a Storm lands on those Vikings as well, pushing those away. He absolutely needs to keep those alive.
He needs to blink forward. He keep picking off those Vikings. Good fight so far. Some more Storms would be nice here.
Oh, they certainly will be. Kill off the Vikings as quickly as possible. One of the Colossi does go down, and the Zealots are being kited very well here by
no
ForGG.
more Zealots. No more Zealots.
Nice dance out of that
No
last
more
Storm
Zealots.
there. Oh, but another Storm does hit a lot of that. The bio pushes
Zealots,
through.
man. No more Zealots, and the bio pushes through, but the supply is equal at this moment. 4th Nexus has started. Zealots are on the other side, but obviously they're not going to do anything now. There is a pylon here. ForGG throws down a 5th base as well. Losing the Zealots at the front there was very, very dangerous. He needed actually a closer pylon and closer reinforcements. If those Zealots were straight into the fight, probably good shape.
Is ForGG's style not slightly working against him, though, not having Ghost? Because if he did and landed so many MPs there, surely that would have turned things a little bit more in his favor in that engagement.
But then he wouldn't have Hellbats and he wouldn't have a higher unit count.
Yeah.
Like, it's his
so
style,
tough.
it's how he likes to play, and we do see ShoWTimE deny this 5th base, but he is going to have to take a fight here. Templars are at the front.
That's a lot of Zealots charging forwards here. Not too bad a Storm will clip some of that bio. He's coming in with a lot of High Templars there as well. Do they have Storms? There's 2 available on them, but he actually has a lot of Storms there.
Yeah, he's going to retreat up here, but that means that he's stuck in a corner. And he's going to have to keep on reinforcing from this point. The Hellbat's doing a great job, but the upgrades are getting better and better for ForGG now. He's got +3 attack on his units. He's going to have +2, but it looks like for now, ShoWTimE will push this back. Does he have momentum from his gateways behind? He's got his 4th base mining now. There's a lot of units there for ForGG, but the supply advantage is with ShoWTimE.
Storm's saving his bacon. A Colossus comes along as well.
He's got to save that Colossus if that gets sniped by the Marauders.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really scary. Blinks to the left-hand side to make sure that the Marauders have a harder time of pursuing. And right now, the economy's looking very much in ForGG's favor with a big mineral income. He's going to try and get this army going again.
A good transfer just went over to the 4th base of ShoWTimE, so he's actually going to be a lot better than he was a couple of seconds ago.
Yeah.
But he's kind of pressuring this this right-hand side now. He's got another wave of units in there. He's got a Colossus. He's got to be careful because there are Vikings as well.
Ooh, nice snipe out.
He does have another Colossus out, I think, and 2 more. So he's got to be very careful. If he loses his units, he'll die to a counterattack. But if he does well, obviously he's good. But to be honest, I think go back. Go back. You got 2 Colossus and 2 High Templar. You're on 4 bases. Chill out. Go chill. You can even throw down the Dark Shrine soon and start getting some other form of harassment in. You don't need to be pressuring at this moment, I don't think.
Yeah, if he rendezvous all of his army together right now, ShoWTimE, he has a really strong standing army. That being said, ForGG realizes the tech switches that are available to his opponent with that double robo that's there. So he's got 4 Vikings coming out at any given time. That's going to give him a lot of power to push back those Colossi again. And these army supplies are very, very similar. ShoWTimE showing us a great game number 2.
He is playing a very good game here, but he is open to an attack here. He's not got all his units together. The Colossus are coming. He may get them picked off there. Not too many Stalkers either. There's only like 5. And
Yeah, just shoo that away.
Ooh, 3 Colossus though. 3 Vikings, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish.
Yeah, he has quite a lot of Vikings there now, and actually the Hellbats just march straight on into that, get a lot of good volleys off, but at the same time, Storms hit a lot of the Vikings as well. Those Archons, if he actually takes down those Vikings, and now these 2 Colossi are completely uncontested against this bio.
As long as there's more Zealots, Glorious, that's the best place to be, and these units are going to have to get picked up. And ShoWTimE wins another fight here. And he's got more units on the way streaming across. And he is putting a lot of pressure onto ForGG at the moment, who is going head-to-head in a 25-minute game against this 19-year-old German. He plays forward. He's going to pick off another Viking. That's enough.
GG.
Well done.
ShoWTimE. That has to be a confidence booster here in this best of 3. For ShoWTimE, that was a damn good game.
That was a very good game. And now ForGG came into this series saying, yeah, you beat MVP.
He looked a bit
was
confused.
lagging. He was latency busted. You got lucky. You won't beat me on LAN. And ShoWTimE says, all right, well, game 1 goes to you, but 25-minute game number 2 on Akalon Waste goes to me. And do you know what the best part of that game was? For me, was his reaction to ForGG's play. From going from game 1 to game 2, the things that I described, he just goes, bam, double forge, fast 3rd base, greedy, just like ForGG was. And I really think now that ForGG changes everything. everything. Reaper expand, factory play, Widow Mines, mixes it up, changes things and says, well, how good is your defense in other areas as well?
This is what I wanted from ShoWTimE from the very beginning, and as you can see here, our final moments of game number 2. Let's have a look at ShoWTimE's reaction. Just a little bit of a fist pump there, and a little sigh of relief. Keeping his hopes alive in this first best-of-3 series. But this is the style he's comfortable with, to double forge play, that defensive style. We saw it against MVP in the round of 32. In game 1, he looked uncomfortable, did ShoWTimE. But in game number 2, that comfort's back a little bit, and we now go into Whirlwind for our next game.
All right, let's begin. Map number 3, tied 1-1. The first game of the evening here at the World Championship Series in Group C.
What a way to kick it off. It's been a belter thus far. But now, spawning up to the top right-hand corner, are Red Protoss, representing ESC as well as Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for ShoWTimE. And down to the bottom right, our Blue Terran, representing Millennium as well as Korea. Give it up for ForGG. Whoop, whoop.
Grubby.
Oh, he's a feisty one.
All right, so even though, I mean, I didn't know that the last map would be Whirlwind, so we may see Command Center first from ForGG here. But I wonder what ShoWTimE will do. Because he's played against ForGG, who's gone 1 Barracks Command Center into 3 each time. ShoWTimE decides to throw down his gateway. I wonder if he has anything specifically planned. To be honest, I think that he doesn't need to.
No, I don't think
it's
so.
Maybe a big risk if he tries it. But you know, of course, we've seen tournaments won on big risks. We've also seen games lost on them as well.
I think it's a little harder than Akelon Waste for him. I mean, I think that's pretty much a given. You know, if he goes for a double forge style and tries to get his 3rd base up, we've seen Terrans, you know, when their opponents have gone for quicker expansions on this map into that 3rd, just run their opponent completely left and right with drop play. So that's something that ShoWTimE's going to take into account on this map, and maybe play a little bit more conservatively in that regard.
I think that the Command Center first can be almost a double-edged sword for ShoWTimE.
Yeah?
Because I think that he'll see it and be like, oh, he's playing a macro-focus game again. But I really don't think we'll see a fast 3rd Command Center in this game. I think it's just going to be the 2 normal barracks that we see added on, and then just go over to refineries. And the reason why I think that that's the way that ForGG is going to play, because obviously he's becoming way too predictable. And if his opponent puts him on that style again, he could go double forge. And maybe that's what ForGG wants him to do, therefore we won't see the 3rd Command Center, and we'll see a lot more aggressive timing style of play come out from ForGG. He is going to get a nice and early scout here. The Zealot is building and is cancelled at the last second there. Okay.
Just to afford that Nexus, ForGG, he did see the probe coming down, so could have swung back and tried to block, but of course then ShoWTimE would have let that Zealot finish, just to make sure there wasn't an engineer bay going down.
One thing to note is ShoWTimE won't even scout the Command Center first in this game. He's scouted last position, or will scout ForGG in last position. There'll be Marines out.
Yeah.
So he's completely in the dark here. And to be honest, I mean, it's not the best place to be in, is it? Because he's going to have a lot of different thoughts coming through one side of his head, coming out the other, then coming back in and going out the other side, and just a lot of things going through. And it may be difficult to play this game unless he has a specific plan already.
Certainly will be. There's the double gas going down for ForGG. It's already here for ShoWTimE, so has the opportunity to just go back onto that robo if he wants to, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does. There we go. That goes down. So ShoWTimE's just playing out a standard game as well.
Why are ForGG's Marines there? That's what I'm asking. I really think he wants his opponent to see the command center.
Yeah?
Because I really think that ForGG wants his opponent to go into, you know, greedy play.
Marine.
You know, like, that's obviously that he can be waiting inside his main base, but it's almost like he's, come on, see the command center. But at this point, it could be just one barracks command center. It could be anything. So I guess it's not that important. But if it was earlier on.
Yeah, I was thinking in my mind, maybe he's leaving them there to try and catch something like, a later Stargate with an Oracle, but that's kind of weird in itself. Because he already confirmed, that his opponent had an expansion going down, saw the gas timings and stuff. So this is, it's a little bit of a weirder position.
All right, well, the ShoWTimE does see the bunker there.
Yeah.
But what ShoWTimE has opened up really normal so far. He's added on extra gateways. That's really smart of him not to go straight over to the Forge or to play too greedy. He's actually playing just the generic build. Get the Robo, get 2 additional gateways so you do have units out if ForGG was to do anything. And this simply is because he hasn't seen anything in this game. Like we mentioned, unfortunately, he decided to scout the other way. Decided to go anti-clockwise instead of clockwise and just doesn't have that much information on his opponent. Imagine if ForGG was still to prevent the scout, the mothership core with these units.
I guess that's going to be his objective here. Imagine that. The Marines, if they move forwards now, they could do a little bit of damage, but ShoWTimE's the vision of the mothership core is very big.
Really nice scout by ShoWTimE.
Yeah,
he sees the 3 barracks and the factory, knows he's playing against just a normal command center into this. He knows what he's playing against now.
And as the mothership core leaves, the observer moves into the fray. But those Marines were watching this perimeter, so maybe he saw the blur and will keep himself stationed there for now.
Double Forge from ShoWTimE. Anyway,
I like
he's
this.
seen it, and he's saying to himself, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can hold on versus this guy's pressure. I can hold on versus his drops. That's what he's saying to himself. Or maybe should I rephrase that saying, I hope I can hold on to this guy's drops. I don't know which way he's going to look at it. But he's obviously going to dedicate a lot of resources now into 1-1, over to Thermal Lance and Colossus production too, which means his unit count's going to be very, very low. He's chronobursting into the Forges to get them out fast. Means he'll need a Twilight Council down soon enough. But ForGG at this moment, is not really doing much. I'm wondering if he's going to throw down extra barracks or a command center, because he's got the money to do both. It just depends on which one he chooses.
Interesting burrow on that Widow Mine there. Is there a missile turret there? No, there isn't. So I was expecting, you know, maybe if he thought that the observer was going to move a little forwards, he knows it's there now. Yeah. So we'll kill that off. And that leaves ShoWTimE a little bit in the dark as to when these drops are going to try and hit. But he has a probe moving down there. Oh, no, it's not in the range.
He's got a pylon there to spot for drops for one thing, and another one here. So he's got 2 in total.
But he's flying around it.
He's flying around it, and he's...
Sneaky man.
He doesn't really know if it's 3rd command center or extra barracks at this point, which is why he's... I mean, to be honest, it doesn't matter if it is a 3rd command center or extra barracks.
He's throwing down the cannon in his mineral line. I love this by ShoWTimE. He's leaving the majority of his units in the natural just to try and cordon that off. And this cannon alone can buy him quite a bit of time.
He's playing really defensive. Really defensive. The Twilight Council's coming in here. He's got pylons splattered across the map to spot for the drops on the right-hand side, to deal harassment on the left-hand side. And the Observer and Cannon. Photon Overcharge immediately activated here. So far, so good from ShoWTimE. ForGG is playing a very normal game. Double Engineering Bay, Armory's down as well. 3rd command set, then additional barracks. So he's not playing like an SCV pool style of play. Actually, I take that back. That may happen. It may happen. But we're unsure yet. It really depends on how he wants to approach this. He definitely could go when +2 attack is done and +1 armor is done as well.
Well, it's nice to see this deviation up by ForGG, actually, just to have that little bit of a more upgrade-focused game, because in the previous ones, it's just been single Engineering Bay, over to the armor as well on the Armory for the Hellbats. But this is going to mean his bio hits that potency a little bit quicker, and ShoWTimE has to deal with that. Of course, he has double Forge as well, which always does keep him sturdy, but ForGG probably anticipates double Forge after seeing game number 2.
Yeah, he can anticipate it because of the way that this is such a defensive setup. He doesn't know it's there, but he's obviously seen very defensive play, a very comfortable position from ShoWTimE. He's saying, well, I'm actually okay to sit on 2 bases for a while, and there's always got to be a question behind it. Is it because he was nervous against pressure? Is it because he's got double Forge? There is no confirmation from ForGG. But at this point, whatever the case, the 3rd Nexus is down. At this also same point, there's been no additional SCV's production until just now. I'm still questioning if we are going to see ForGG move out. He's only got 2 Vikings and only 2 more on the way, so he doesn't have a very high Viking count. He's obviously building a very strong army very, very fast. He's opened up his supply. He's got a lot of barracks down. But ShoWTimE will have 2-2 soon. And that is so important, with a lot of Stalkers, a lot of Colossus, with Blink as well, to be able to pick off Vikings.
It's a good setup. It's a really good setup. And ShoWTimE here just getting his 3rd base up. Now, this is, for me, this is the scary time. Ah, he actually knows about the Widow Mine.
Yeah, okay, that's why he's not mining.
Good stuff, yeah. But this is scary time, I feel, because this base is much easier to pressure and break for ForGG than it would ever have been on Akelon Wastes. So now he could do damage. He has a really, really big army.
Vikings on the high ground on the third base. There's that little spot, the sweet spot there.
This bit.
Where it's highlighted. That is actually a very good place for Vikings to fight. But he's only at 6 Vikings. It's not very high here. At this point, SCV production has stopped once again. ForGG's got a very large army supply. He scans and sees. ShoWTimE knows his army's there. Force fields once. He needs to protect his Colossus.
Oh, he certainly does. One of the Vikings will go down before one of Colossus falls, as well as second one. So these 2 Colossi behind this are going to survive for a little bit longer, but that's still a lot of bio. Trying to get around the force fields will do. Chasing down a first Colossus, second Colossus.
ShoWTimE's fighting out in the open without the Mothership Core. No time warps to slow this down. And very simply, ForGG slams the door open, walks right through, and says, this series is mine, buddy. You're not going to take it away from me. And all of a sudden, ShoWTimE is stuck on 2 bases. He now has 2-2, but ForGG doesn't need to pull SCVs. He starts +3 attack, he starts +2 armor, and can very happily just sit back, build up. He now knows that ShoWTimE can never get over to Storm. Increase the Viking count, bro.
This
go when
map.
the Viking count is high. Go when +3 attack and +2 armor. He'd probably go now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this map is just so hard for ShoWTimE to establish that third base. We said that from the very beginning, and it's come back to bite him, unfortunately, as ForGG doubles his opponent's supply, pushes on with this bio. He lost a lot of it, but there's only 2 naked Colossi remaining. And they don't do too well when they're naked, unfortunately.
And unfortunately for ShoWTimE, a good effort in map number 2 here, but he has been pushed out the way here by ForGG, who is at a massive supply advantage. And more units streaming across, and ShoWTimE will drop the first game, but ForGG will pick up the first series 2 games to 1.
Impressive play there by ForGG, but we have to commend the resilience in game number 2 of ShoWTimE. Akelon Wastes, I have to say, was his map. It was his map to win, and he did it confidently. Going on to Whirlwind, maybe there needed to be a change-up in what he was going to do.
I mean, a couple of changes would have been Mothership Core being around there. Maybe he didn't need to be out in the open. Why couldn't he have hugged one of the ramps? Maybe.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different ways to approach it for sure, but I'm sure Grubby may go over something like that to be able to describe what he could have done better, of course, Grubby being the expert. But there is the handshake from ForGG, and we'll get ready for his winner's interview. A valiant effort from ShoWTimE, but as I mentioned earlier, it does put him in a bit of difficult spot.
It really does.
He now must go up in the loser bracket, lower bracket, versus either Nurture or Genius. As described, we know how good Nurture's playing recently. We know Genius is a crazy guy. Crazy guy. He can do anything. He's unpredictable. Nobody knows how he's playing today. So it could be a difficult PvP for sure for him.
I'm looking forward to the craziness of Genius, gotta say. It's nice to have him actually here in the studios after being in the StarCraft scene for so long. But now, guys, we can send it over to an interview with another very, very strong Korean. That is ForGG.
Thanks, guys. Yes, with ForGG, congratulations. Really good win in the end. Many people thought that you would win that one easier, 2-0, but it was 2-1. So first map you win, straightforward, but the second map was much harder for you.
Yes, first map is very easy, and second map, I really very good situation, but suddenly ShoWTimE so many units and make High Templar, and suddenly I'm GG, so I don't know why.
You're supposed to be ForGG, not suddenly GG. Yeah. Map 3 was much better for you, though. It went pretty much how you expected?
Sorry?
How you planned map 3 was much better?
Yes, this is better.
Okay. So talk us through map 3. What were you thinking before map 3?
I like 3. 3 map.
Just that you like 3 maps?
Okay.
Okay. So I was saying, in the third map, what were you thinking in your head? Were you worried from the second map?
No. Third game, I just think about don't misplay, because second play I miss, so ShoWTimE have defense my attack, but third game I know misplays, so that's why ShoWTimE die.
Okay. First season 1, you were very good, finished round of 4. Second season, not so good.
Yeah.
So back for season 3.
Yeah.
Is BlizzCon the thing you want most?
Of course, I I really want BlizzCon, so I really want today pass this group.
Okay, well, you've got halfway there. You need to win one more match. Have you got any... Which other player would you like to play in the final?
Sorry?
Which of the two players that are left would you prefer to play? Would you like to play Nurchio again?
I don't care Nurture or Genius. Both I think I can beat.
Okay. Well, best of luck. Ladies and gentlemen, ForGG is our first winner of the evening. He'll go through to the winners' final. And will he play Genius or Nurchio? We'll find out in game number 2. But for now, let's go over to Grubby.
Yeah, there's a lot to analyze in this series. We've had 3 really great games between these two. Very surprised about the second game there, where so many probes were blown up by the Widow Mine. Usually Protoss go like desk, like face desk, face palm. They're like, GG, there's like lost that many probes, it's over. But what I really want to look at is game 1. Why? Well, in ShoWTimE against MVP, in the round of 32, we saw him use a particular build with 2 Forges, going for Colossus, skipping Storm for the most part, and getting Archons instead. So he's focusing on an army with Blink, Charge, Colossus, and Archons, no Storm. So he doesn't have that awkward transition where he's trying to go to Storm and deter and pulls SCVs and Vikings and therefore wins. Now, game 2 and 3, ShoWTimE played this style, Double Forge, Colossus, and so forth, and he did pretty well with it. He came back from a very bad beginning on Akelon and won it, and in game 3, he lost. The map is quite hard, Whirlwind, there's a lot of open spaces, maybe he made some mistakes, maybe some wrong choices, but for the most part, I want to say that he's 1-1 against ForGG with his most standard style. ForGG, he also played 2 times the same strategy, command center first into 3rd CC really fast in game 1 and 2, and then he did command center first also in the game 3. So if we just talk only about the beginning, command center first, ForGG did the same thing kind of 3 times. Now this is a strategy that we do know from ForGG. Like anyone who studies him could find out that ForGG often opens like this. Quite greedy, quite risky, but by the time you find out in the normal way, it's already too late to really respond to it. I've asked the replay here to be paused by our good observer Funka at 10 minutes because this is kind of a key point here. Earlier on, the Mothership Core came into the main base, saw the amount of Marines, saw the timing of the barracks being added. If he is analytical enough, he would know that there's a very quick 3rd command center going on, and he should take his liberties, not in the middle of the game, but as quickly as possible. Now, it's doubtful whether he did or not. He went up to Gateways, Twilight Council, before he took his 3rd. He took his 3rd at 8:25. And taking it at 8:25, you kind of get to that awkward time where you don't quite take it early enough to almost catch up to the Terran economy. You don't take it late enough to be safe against the push. 4 barracks being added on by ForGG. He's jumping up to 8 barracks. And he already skipped the part of the game where he was quite at risk. Take a look now. The last 2 barracks are finishing up. 8 barracks will be done. The 3rd orbital is landing. Of course, ShoWTimE is in no position to put pressure, even though he made a War Prism. And he spread himself out across 3 bases. He's getting Storm. If he meets ForGG in a direct engagement, he's going to be doing quite fine. We saw that with the Time Warp later. If we can fast forward to the time where the actual engagement starts. We've got the standard ForGG Widow Mine drop. And again, this is something that he does almost every game. And there's no real response from ShoWTimE until game 3, where he prepared cannons in every base. Widow Mine drops were quite annoying. Now we've got an exact 50% split from ForGG's army. And one army gets toasted. Now, if this army was twice as big as it is, it would also get toasted. Time Warp, Storm, they were very good and a source of much mirth and excitement for the casters, as for probably everyone watching at home. However, the drop in the main, completely uncontested. It's just a little bit too early for ShoWTimE to be working on Storm, mass probes, and also still have a gateway explosion, enough supply to be able to split his army effectively. So really what I want to point out here, the rest of the replay doesn't really matter anymore, is that ShoWTimE had this plan in game 1 to deal with what he could probably expect from ForGG, but it wasn't necessarily the best suited plan, I don't think, against ForGG. He didn't go extreme greed from the very beginning, and he didn't prepare some kind of all-in. He mostly trusted his own guns, but I think game 1 was really a bit odd. I don't think he had a lot of experience with that kind of style. or at least not against a player of ForGG's caliber. But then that is a problem, isn't it? If you're going up against someone like ForGG in Europe, good luck finding a practice partner who will really make it as hard for you as ForGG will in the match. So to summarize, really great performance by ShoWTimE. He played really solid, coming back from some deficits. And 1-2 is by no means worthy of no respect. Very well done by him. But ForGG showing his strength, playing his own style, and winning, in the end, pretty convincingly in the last game. So that was it for now. Thanks for listening, and we'll go on to Paul for the next segment.
Thank you very much, Grubby. Great analysis again. It's always interesting hearing his thoughts. I learned so much just from listening to him play. If only I played Protoss. Okay, time to move on now. Our second game is on its way fairly shortly, but we do want to update you on the chance to win a StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm Collector's Edition. Not the shrink-wrapped version, red-eye-proofed version that you can see in front of you, but instead a fully signed one from all the players and the commentary team here from Group C. You can win it by doing this. All you've got to do, he says all you've got to do, but this is what you've got to do to win it. Predict the top 4 in this group in order and tell us on Twitter using the hashtag #WCS. So all you've got to do is put number 1, ShoWTimE, number 2, Genius, number 3, ForGG, number 4, Nurtio. If that's the order you think they'll finish in, only those with the correct order in all 4 spots will have a chance to win the Collector's Edition. If we have more than one person that gets it right, we'll do a random draw and you will win the StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm Collector's Edition. How's about that then? We will repeat the competition a little bit later on in the show, but it'll keep you guessing all the way until the very last match. So tell us what you think. Top 4 in a row using #WCS on Twitter, and we'll be back very shortly with match number 2 from Group C.